Dr. Martinez, I'm afraid the diagnosis is permanent blindness. Marcus Chun lay in the hospital bed, his head wrapped in bandages. The words hung in the sterile air of the private room. But what shattered him wasn't the prognosis. It was the smile that flickered across his fiancée's face when she thought he couldn't see it. 3 days ago, a distracted driver had crashed into Marcus's Tesla at a busy Chicago intersection. The impact left him with severe head trauma and what doctors called traumatic optic neuropathy. For 72 hours, darkness consumed his world. But that morning, his vision had miraculously returned. Dr. Martinez had examined him privately at dawn, stunned by the recovery. Marcus had made one request: don't tell anyone. Not yet. Now, watching Dr. Martinez deliver the false diagnosis to his fiancée Sophia, Marcus understood why his instincts had screamed at him to wait. That smile, that terrible, revealing smile. Blueheart, are you hooked? Like this video if you can't wait to see what Marcus discovers next. Subscribe to our channel and comment below. Would you pretend to be blind to catch a cheater? Let's discuss. Backhand index pointing down. The collision happened so fast that Marcus barely had time to register the screech of tires before metal met metal. One moment, he was driving through downtown Chicago, heading home after a late meeting at his tech company's headquarters. The next, his world exploded in a symphony of shattering glass and deploying airbags. Marcus Chun had built his software empire from nothing. At 36, he was worth over $200 million, with a company that provided cloud security solutions to Fortune 500 companies. He'd worked 18-hour days for a decade, sacrificing relationships and personal time to build something meaningful. Success had come, but so had loneliness. That's why meeting Sofia Rodriguez at a tech conference 6 months ago had felt like fate. She was beautiful, charming, and seemingly genuinely interested in him, not just his wealth. A marketing consultant with her own successful practice, she didn't need his money. Or so he thought. The ambulance ride to Northwestern Memorial Hospital was a blur of sirens and pain. Marcus drifted in and out of consciousness, hearing fragmented conversations between paramedics. Severe head trauma, possible vision damage, need immediate CT scan. When he woke in the hospital room, the world was black. Complete, terrifying darkness. Sophia was there, her voice trembling with what sounded like genuine concern. "Baby, I'm here. You're going to be okay. The doctors are running tests." For 3 days, Marcus lived in that darkness. Specialists came and went, running tests, shining lights he couldn't see, asking questions he could barely answer through the fog of pain medication. Sophia never left his side, or so it seemed. She held his hand, read to him, assured him they'd face whatever came together. On the morning of the 4th day, something changed. Marcus woke before dawn, and in the dim light filtering through the hospital blinds, he could see shapes at first, then details. The 4 stand beside his bed, the monitors displaying his vital signs, the ceiling tiles above him. His vision had returned, clear and perfect. When Dr. Martinez arrived for the early morning examination, Marcus made a split-second decision that would change everything. As the doctor began his routine check, shining lights into Marcus's eyes, Marcus whispered urgently, "I can see, but don't tell anyone. Please." Dr. Martinez's eyes widened in surprise, but years of medical training kept his expression neutral. "Mr. Chun, this is highly irregular." "Please," Marcus interrupted. "Something doesn't feel right. I need time to think. Can you give me 48 hours? Tell everyone the blindness is permanent." The doctor hesitated, clearly conflicted. But something in Marcus's tone, a desperation mixed with determination, made him nod slowly. 48 hours. But if you're in any danger, I'll tell you immediately, Marcus promised. 2 hours later, Sophia arrived for visiting hours. She looked tired but perfectly put together, her makeup flawless, her designer outfit elegant. She kissed his forehead gently. "How are you feeling, my love?" "The same," Marcus said, keeping his eyes closed beneath the bandages. "Has the doctor been in yet?" "Not yet, but he should be here soon for your evaluation." When Dr. Martinez entered and delivered the devastating false prognosis, permanent blindness, No chance of recovery. Significant lifestyle adjustments needed. Marcus listened to Sophia's reaction carefully. Her gasp seemed genuine. Her hand tightened on his arm appropriately. Her voice trembled with what anyone would interpret as shock and grief. But Marcus saw it. Through the small gap in his bandages, he saw her face. And for just a moment, so brief that anyone not watching specifically for it would have missed it entirely, Sophia smiled. Not a smile of relief that he was alive. Not a brave smile, trying to be strong for him, but a smile of satisfaction, of triumph. Marcus's blood ran cold. After the doctor left, Sophia was quiet. Then her phone buzzed. "Baby, I need to take this call. I'll be right outside." Through his barely open eyes, Marcus watched her step into the hallway. Her entire posture changed. She threw her head back and laughed. Actually laughed while talking on the phone. Her free hand gestured excitedly, and when she glanced back toward his room, Marcus quickly closed his eyes. When she returned, her mask of concern was back in place. "That was my mother. She's so worried about you. About us." "I'm sorry," Marcus whispered, his throat tight with emotions that had nothing to do with his fake blindness. "I'm sorry this happened." "Don't apologize," Sophia said softly, squeezing his hand. But her palm was dry, her grip perfunctory. "We'll face this together." As night fell and Sophia finally left to shower and change clothes, Marcus lay in the darkness. Not the darkness of blindness, but the darkness of betrayal. He stared at the ceiling, his mind racing. Tomorrow he'd be discharged. Tomorrow he'd return to his penthouse with a woman who'd just revealed herself to be a stranger. Tomorrow the real performance would begin. But tonight, Marcus allowed himself to grieve, not for his vision, but for his trust. Marcus's penthouse in the Gold Coast neighborhood had always been his sanctuary. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lake Michigan, minimalist decor featuring his collection of contemporary art, smart home technology he'd helped develop. Everything reflected the life he'd built. Now, as he stood in the center of his living room, gripping his best friend David's arm for fake support, it all felt different. Tainted. "Careful, babe," Sophia cooed, rushing forward as Marcus deliberately stumbled over his own coffee table. "We should rearrange the furniture to make it easier for you." "No," Marcus said, perhaps too quickly. He softened his tone. "I need to adapt. The doctor said keeping familiar surroundings would help me adjust." Behind his designer sunglasses, Cartier frames with dark lenses that completely hid his eyes, Marcus watched Sophia exchange a glance with a home care nurse she'd insisted on hiring. A woman named Carmen who, according to David's quick background check, had worked for Sophia's family for years. "Of course, whatever you think is best," Sophia said sweetly. "I just worry about you." The first week home was an education in deception. Marcus had to relearn how to move through his own space as if blind. He knocked into furniture with calculated clumsiness, reached for objects and missed by carefully measured inches, asked for help with tasks he could easily complete himself. Every moment was exhausting, but not as exhausting as watching Sophia transform. On the third day, Marcus sat in his home office, pretending to familiarize himself with voice-activated software. In reality, he was watching Sophia through his sunglasses as she entered, thinking he was occupied. She moved directly to his desk, bypassing the papers on top to open the locked drawer. Marcus had left it unlocked that morning, a test. He watched her photograph document after document with her phone, investment portfolios, property deeds, company stock certificates, bank account information. His fists clenched on the desk. Every instinct screamed at him to jump up, to confront her, to throw her out. But he remained still, breathing slowly, counting to calm his racing pulse. She spent 17 minutes systematically documenting his financial life. When finished, she carefully arranged everything exactly as it had been, then crept out on silent feet. Minutes later, she appeared in the office doorway with a bright smile. "Baby, you're awake. I was just making lunch. Are you hungry?" "Starving," Marcus replied, wondering if she heard the double meaning. That evening, David came for dinner. Sophia played the perfect hostess, serving wine, making conversation, laughing at David's jokes. After the meal, she excused herself to take a bath. The moment the bathroom door closed, David pulled out his tablet. "The nurse, Carmen Vasquez, is Sophia's cousin," he said quietly. "And I found something else. Sophia's been meeting with Richard Blake." Marcus's stomach dropped. Richard Blake was a commercial real estate developer who'd been trying to force Marcus out a major deal for months. More than that, Blake had a reputation for shady business practices and fraud. "How often?" Marcus asked. "Hotel meetings at the peninsula. Multiple times over the past 4 months. While you two were engaged." David's voice was tight with anger. "I have hotel security footage if you want to see it." "Not yet," Marcus said, his jaw clenched. "I need to know what they're planning." Over the next few days, Marcus noticed other changes in Sophia's behavior. She was less patient with his questions, more dismissive of his concerns. When his business partners called, she screened them, claiming he needed rest. When his mother wanted to visit from San Francisco, Sophia suggested they wait until Marcus was ready. She was building a cage around him, and she thought he was too blind to see the bars. One evening, Marcus deliberately knocked over a glass of water. It shattered on the marble floor, and he reached for the pieces. "Don't!" Sophia snapped, her voice sharp. Then she caught herself, softening her tone. "I mean, you'll cut yourself, baby. Let Carmen clean it up." But Marcus had seen her face in that unguarded moment. Irritation, contempt, disgust, not at the broken glass, but at him. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I'm so clumsy now. This must be hard for you." She came to him, wrapping her arms around him in what should have been comforting. "It's fine. It's all fine." But her body was stiff, her touch mechanical. That night, lying beside Sophia in their bed, Marcus stared at the ceiling he could see perfectly. His phone buzzed silently. A text from David. "Found something big. Need to talk tomorrow. Private. Important." Marcus acknowledged with a thumbs up and set the phone down. Tomorrow the truth would become clearer. But tonight, Marcus wondered how much longer he could maintain this performance before the rage and heartbreak consumed him entirely. "Marcus, sweetheart, I've been thinking," Sophia said over breakfast, her voice honey-sweet. "You need more help than Carmen and I can provide. I found someone, a professional caregiver who specializes in supporting visually impaired individuals." Marcus's coffee cup paused halfway to his lips. Behind his dark glasses, his eyes narrowed. "I have Carmen, and I have you. Carmen is a nurse, not a specialized caregiver. And she sighed dramatically. "I'm exhausted, Marcus. I'm trying to manage your care, handle the household, deal with your business calls. I need help. We need help." Something in her tone triggered every alarm in his head. When would this person start? "Actually, he's available today. I took the liberty of scheduling a trial period." She paused. "His name is Richard Blake." The coffee cup slipped from Marcus's fingers, clattering against the saucer. Hot liquid splashed across the table, and he jerked back with a convincing show of surprise. "Oh, baby, I'm sorry." Sophia was up instantly, dabbing at the spill. "This is exactly why we need more help." But Marcus barely heard her. Richard Blake, his business rival, Sophia's lover. She was bringing him into their home, into Marcus's life, under the guise of helping him. The audacity was breathtaking. "I don't know about a stranger in our home," Marcus managed. "He's not a stranger to me," Sophia said quickly. "I've known him for years through business circles. He's completely trustworthy. Please, Marcus, just give it a try." Every fiber of his being wanted to refuse. But David's words echoed in his mind. "We need to see how far they'll go." "All right," Marcus said slowly. "A trial period." Richard arrived that afternoon. Marcus sat in the living room, pretending to listen to an audiobook, while Sophia greeted him at the door. "Thank you so much for coming on short notice," Sophia said, her voice carrying that professional warmth she used with strangers. But Marcus heard something underneath: excitement, anticipation. "Of course. Anything for you, Sophia." Richard's voice was smooth, confident. "Where is he?" "He. Not your fiancé or Mr. Chun. Just he," with an undertone of dismissal that made Marcus's hands clench. Sophia led Richard into the living room. "Marcus, this is Richard Blake." "Richard, my fiancé." Marcus stood, extending his hands slightly to the left of where Richard actually stood, a calculated move. Richard grasped it with a grip that was aggressive, dominating. "Mr. Chun, I'm here to make your life easier," Richard said, his tone patronizing. "Sophia tells me you've been struggling with the adjustment." "I'm managing," Marcus said carefully. "I'm sure you are. But there's no shame in accepting help." For the next hour, Marcus played his role while Richard asked questions, made suggestions, and subtly took control of the space. Sophia watched with barely concealed satisfaction. That evening, after Richard left with promises to return the next morning, Marcus sat in his home office waiting for David's call. But before his friend could ring, Marcus heard voices from upstairs. Sophia's bedroom was directly above his office, and the building's old ventilation system carried sound in unexpected ways, a quirk Marcus had discovered weeks ago. "I can't believe you actually came to the house," Sophia's voice, breathless with laughter. "Why not?" Richard replied. "The blind fool has no idea. Did you see his face when you introduced me? Completely clueless. It's perfect. This way I can see you every day, and he thinks you're here to help him." "How long until the conservatorship papers are ready?" 2 more weeks. My lawyer is preparing everything. Once they're filed with the medical documentation, it should be quick. Then we transfer the assets, and there was movement, then silence. Marcus didn't need to see to know they were kissing. In his home, steps away from where he sat, his vision blurred, not with blindness, but with rage and grief. His phone buzzed. "David." "Brother, I have updates," David said when Marcus answered. "Are you alone?" "Never alone anymore," Marcus said bitterly. Sophia brought Richard into the house. As my caregiver, David's string of curses was creative and heartfelt. "She brought her lover to your home?" "Marcus, this is dangerous." "I know. What did you find?" "I've been monitoring their communications through, let's call it creative IT work. They have an offshore account set up in the Cayman Islands. The plan is to transfer your liquid assets there, then liquidate your property and company shares. They've been planning this for at least 8 months, since before she even accepted your proposal. 8 months. Their entire relationship had been a lie from the beginning. There's more, David continued. I found communications about something called the final solution. I don't have details yet, but Marcus, the way they discuss it, I think once they have your money, they're planning to eliminate you. Permanently. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Marcus had suspected, but hearing it confirmed was different. Then we move faster, Marcus said. I want cameras. Hidden, professional grade. Every room except bathrooms. Can you arrange it? Already working on it. Team comes tomorrow while Sophia's supposedly visiting her mother. You'll need to be out. I'll have Richard take me to a doctor's appointment, Marcus said. Let him feel useful. After hanging up, Marcus sat in the darkness. Not the darkness of blindness, but the darkness of knowing the woman he'd loved was planning his murder. Over the next week, Marcus's penthouse became a surveillance center. David's team installed cameras with military precision. Hidden in smoke detectors, air vents, picture frames, even the spines of books on shelves. Every angle covered, every corner monitored. What they captured was worse than Marcus had imagined. He sat in his office, supposedly working on audio files for his company, while watching live feeds on his concealed laptop. Sophia and Richard were in the living room, drinking his expensive wine, laughing. God, I can't wait until this is over, Richard said, sprawling on Marcus's custom Italian leather sofa. Playing nursemaid to a blind tech nerd isn't exactly my idea of fun. Just a few more weeks, Sophia replied, refilling his glass. Once the conservatorship goes through, we'll have full access. Then we can start the transfers. And after, Sophia was quiet for a moment. A medication error. An overdose of his blood pressure medication. He's blind, confused. These things happen. Marcus's hands gripped his desk so tightly his knuckles went white. They were planning to kill him. Actually discussing his murder while drinking his wine in his home. Not poison, Sophia continued. Too obvious. But a simple mistake with his medications, with his condition, with how dependent he is on us. No one would question it. Richard laughed. You're brilliant, you know that? I know. Marcus forced himself to breathe slowly, to not storm into that room and wrap his hands around both their throats. The evidence. He needed the evidence. His phone buzzed. "David, are you seeing this?" Every word, Marcus typed back. "We have enough to arrest them now." "Say the word." Marcus hesitated. They had conspiracy to commit fraud, yes. But the conservatorship hearing, if he could let it get that far, if he could catch them in the actual act of legal fraud, of perjury, the charges would be more severe. The evidence irrefutable. "Not yet," he typed. "Let them get closer." That night, Sophia brought Marcus his medications. Blood pressure pills he didn't actually need since his recovery, but continued taking to maintain the fiction. She handed him the glass of water and the pills, watching as he swallowed them. What she didn't know was that David had replaced all his real medications with placebos weeks ago. Whatever Sophia might add to them, Marcus would be safe. "Sleep well, baby," she whispered, kissing his forehead. "You too," Marcus replied, and listened to her footsteps retreat down the hall. The next morning, Sophia announced she had a spa day planned. "You'll be all right with Richard and Carmen, won't you? I just need a few hours to decompress. This has all been so stressful." "Of course," Marcus said. "You deserve a break. You've been taking such good care of me." The moment her car left the building's parking garage, David arrived. They sat in Marcus's office with the door locked, security system disabled for privacy. "She's been meeting with a lawyer," David said, pulling up documents on his tablet. "Not a regular attorney, a specialist in disability rights and conservatorship law. She's been asking about gaining legal control over your assets due to your incapacity." Marcus felt sick. Conservatorship? I'm 36 and mentally competent. Blindness can be argued as a disability that impairs your ability to manage complex business affairs. With the right medical testimony, which I'm sure she's obtaining, she could petition to become your legal guardian, at which point she'd control everything. And then what? Force me into some care facility while she liquidates my assets. David hesitated. "Marcus, if she's willing to go this far, if she's planning to trap you legally and financially, what happens when she has what she wants? What happens to you?" The implication hung heavy in the air. A blind, helpless millionaire with all his assets signed over to his fiancée would be expendable. An accident, a medication mishap, a fall. "She'd kill me," Marcus said flatly. "I don't know. I hope not. But brother, we need to be prepared for anything." David leaned forward. "How much longer can you keep this up? How much more do we need to see?" Marcus stood, walking to the window without the cane he was supposed to need, staring out at Lake Michigan. "Until we have everything. Every person involved, every document, every plan. I want her caught in a trap, so complete she has no way out. And if seeing all this destroys you in the process, then I'll rebuild." Marcus turned back to his friend. "I built this company once from nothing. I can build myself again too. But first, I need to know the full truth." David nodded slowly. "Then we keep going. But Marcus, protect your heart." Too late for that, Marcus thought. His heart had broken the moment he saw Sophia smile at his blindness. That evening, Sophia returned from her spa day, glowing and refreshed. She kissed his cheek, told him she missed him, asked about his day. Every word was a lie wrapped in sweetness. "I love you," she said as they prepared for bed. "I love you too," Marcus replied, wondering if she could taste the ashes in his voice. In the darkness, wearing his sunglasses, even in bed now, claiming light sensitivity, Marcus watched her fall asleep. And he thought about trust, about love, about how the cruelest blindness had nothing to do with eyes at all. "I've been thinking about the wedding," Sophia announced over breakfast, her voice carrying the determined edge Marcus had learned to recognize. "I don't want to wait anymore." Marcus set down his fork carefully. "I thought we agreed to postpone until I was better adjusted." "You're as adjusted as you're going to get, baby." Her hand covered his, squeezing just a bit too tightly. "And I want to take care of you properly. As your wife." Behind his dark glasses, Marcus studied her face. She was smiling, but her eyes were calculating. The conservatorship hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks from now. She wanted to marry him first. "Sophia, I don't want you to feel pressured." "I'm not pressured. I love you." The words came out smooth as silk and just as empty. I want to be your wife. Don't you want that too? It was a trap. Refusing would make her suspicious. Agreeing would give her additional legal claim to his assets even before the conservatorship went through. Of course I do, Marcus said softly. I just want you to be sure. My condition, it changes things. It changes nothing about how I feel. She moved around the table to embrace him from behind. Her perfume, expensive, cloying, filled his senses. We'll have a small ceremony. Intimate. Just close friends and family. 2 weeks from Saturday. What do you say? The same weekend as the conservatorship hearing. She was planning to hit him from both sides, legal marriage and legal guardianship. 2 weeks seems fast. We've been engaged for 8 months, Marcus. We've waited long enough. Her voice hardened slightly. Unless you're having second thoughts about us. There was the subtle threat, the manipulation. No second thoughts. Marcus lied. 2 weeks sounds perfect. That afternoon, while Sophia and Richard were supposedly out making wedding arrangements, David came to the penthouse. The wedding is a problem, David said, pulling up documents on his tablet. If you actually marry her, even for a day, it complicates things legally. She could claim spousal rights, challenge the asset protection we've been putting in place. I know. Marcus stood, pacing to the window. But if I refuse, she'll know something's wrong. I need her confident, comfortable. Brother, she's planning to kill you. We have her on recording. We can end this now. On what charges? Conspiracy? She'd make bail in hours, and we'd lose the chance to catch her in the bigger crime. Marcus shook his head. No, we need the conservatorship hearing. We need her committing perjury in court, her doctors lying under oath. We need it all. David sighed. You're playing a dangerous game. I'm playing chess while she thinks we're playing checkers. Marcus returned to his desk. Here's what we do. The wedding happens. But that morning, I sign a prenuptial agreement. One she doesn't know about, prepared by my real lawyers. It'll be ironclad, protecting everything. And if she tries to kill you before the conservatorship hearing, then I remove these glasses and end a charade early. But I don't think she will. She's careful, methodical. She'll wait until she has legal control, legal cover. Over the next 2 weeks, Marcus watched his wedding plans unfold like a dark comedy. Sophia kept the guest list suspiciously small. His mother was told the ceremony was postponed. His business partners received regrets, citing his need for privacy. His childhood friend from college were uninvited. Just intimate friends, Sophia explained. You don't want to be overwhelmed. But Marcus saw the truth. She was isolating him, ensuring that anyone who truly cared about him would be absent. The guest list of 20 consisted mostly of her friends, family, and tellingly, the 3 doctors scheduled to testify at the conservatorship hearing. 1 week before the ceremony, Marcus sat in his office, supposedly reviewing audio wedding vows Sophia had prepared. In reality, he was watching security footage from earlier that day. Sophia and Richard in the living room, sharing wine. Can you believe we're almost there? Sophia's voice came through clearly. By this time next month, we'll be in the Bahamas and Marcus will be, well, gone. What about the will? Richard asked. He hasn't updated it to include you yet. He will, right after the wedding. I've already prepared the document. He just needs to sign it. In his condition, with his disability, who will question it? And when the accident happens? 2 weeks after the conservatorship is approved. Long enough for everything to seem normal. Short enough that we're not waiting forever. She laughed. I'll be the devoted wife who fought so hard to save him. Marcus stopped the playback. He'd heard enough. That night, David delivered the secret prenuptial agreement. It was a masterpiece of legal protection, specifying that Sophia would have claim to nothing acquired before the marriage. She thinks I'm signing the vows tomorrow, Marcus said, pen in hand. Instead, I'm signing this. Make sure it's filed with the court tomorrow, Marcus added. Witnessed, notarized, undeniable. Done. David hesitated. Your mother called me. She's hurt that she's not invited. Marcus paused. Tell her to come anyway. Tell her to arrive an hour before the ceremony and bring the family. All of them. I want people there who actually love me. I want witnesses who will tell the truth. David smiled slowly. You're going to do it at the wedding. I'm going to do it at the wedding. 5 days before the ceremony, Sophia took Marcus to meet with the officiant, a minister she'd selected at a church Marcus had never attended. Do you, Marcus, take Sophia to be your lawfully wedded wife, in sickness and in health, for richer or for poorer? For richer or for poorer? Marcus almost laughed at the irony. She had chosen for richer and planned to leave him with nothing. Or rather, leave him dead. I do, Marcus said when prompted. I do, Sophia echoed, her voice trembling with what the minister surely interpreted as emotion. That evening, as they returned to the penthouse, Sophia was more affectionate than she'd been in weeks. She held his hand, spoke in soft endearments, played the devoted fiancée one last time. I can't wait to be your wife, she whispered as they prepared for bed. Neither can I, Marcus replied, admitted in ways she couldn't imagine. He couldn't wait to be her husband for exactly as long as it took to expose her, arrest her, and annul a marriage that would last mere hours. The morning of the wedding, Marcus woke before dawn. Beside him, Sophia slept peacefully, her face serene in the soft light filtering through the curtains. Looking at her now, he could almost remember why he'd fallen in love with her. Almost. His phone buzzed silently. David, everything is in place. Police are standing by. Your family is on their way. Are you ready? Marcus typed back. I've been ready since the day I saw her smile in my blindness. The ceremony was scheduled for 3 p.m. at a small church in Lincoln Park that Sophia had chosen. The morning passed in a blur of final preparations. Sophia was radiant, excited, touching him constantly. Today you become mine, she whispered, helping him into his custom-tailored suit. Officially, legally mine. Officially, legally yours, Marcus agreed, adjusting his dark glasses. At 1 p.m., Sophia left for a hotel with her bridesmaids. I want the first time you hear me today to be when I'm walking down the aisle, she said, kissing him goodbye. I love you, Marcus. I love you too, he replied, and the words felt like goodbye to the man he used to be. The moment her car left, David arrived with Marcus's real wedding party. His mother, Linda Chun, a formidable woman in her 60s. His younger sister, Amy. His cousins from California. And a dozen childhood friends. Behind them came his real lawyers. And in an unmarked car parked discreetly down the street, 2 Chicago police detectives. My son, his mother embraced him tightly, then stepped back, her eyes searching his face. David told us everything. Is it true? You can see. Marcus removed his sunglasses. I can see, Mom. I can see everything. His mother's hand flew to her mouth. That evil woman. That wicked, evil woman. Not for much longer. Marcus replaced his glasses. But I need you all to act normally. Surprised to be here, but happy. Can you do that? His family nodded grimly. They understood their roles. At 2:45 p.m., Marcus arrived at the church. The small chapel was decorated simply. White roses, elegant ribbons, nothing too extravagant. Sophia's 20 guests were already seated, whispering among themselves. When Marcus entered with David as his guide, the whispers grew louder. He recognized the 3 doctors who were set to testify at the conservatorship hearing. Sophia's cousin Carmen, various friends who'd been complicit in isolating him, and sitting in the front row, bold as could be, Richard Blake, listed in the program as special family friend. Then Marcus's family entered. The surprise on Sophia's guests' faces was palpable. This wasn't part of the plan. The carefully controlled guest list had just doubled with people who actually cared about the groom. Marcus's mother walked directly to the front row, staring down Richard until he moved to a different seat. The power dynamics in the room shifted visibly. At 3 p.m. exactly, the music began. Marcus stood at the altar, David beside him, facing the doors. His heart pounded, not with nervousness, but with anticipation. The doors opened. Sophia appeared, backlit by the afternoon sun, wearing a stunning white gown that probably cost more than most people's annual salaries. She looked like a vision, like every groom's dream. She looked like a beautiful lie. As she walked down the aisle, Marcus saw her eyes widen slightly at the unexpected guests. She faltered for just a moment, then recovered, her smile never wavering. She reached the altar, taking her place across from him. This close, He could smell her perfume, see the triumph in her eyes. She thought she'd won. The minister began. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to join Marcus Chun and Sophia Rodriguez in holy matrimony. Marcus let him continue through the opening remarks, through the readings, through the first portion of the vows. He wanted Sophia comfortable. He wanted her confident. If anyone has any reason why these two should not be wed, speak now or forever hold your peace. The moment of silence stretched. This was it. This was his moment. Marcus reached up and removed his sunglasses. The effect was instantaneous. Sophia gasped, stumbling backward. Around the chapel, her guests murmured in confusion, but Marcus's family remained silent, waiting. I do, Marcus said clearly, his voice carrying through the chapel. I have a reason. Several, in fact. Marcus. Sophia's voice was thin, uncertain. Your eyes, you can see. Marcus smiled, and it was not a kind smile. Yes, Sophia. I can see. I've been able to see since the day after the accident. I saw everything. The color drained from her face. What are you talking about? This isn't funny. I saw you smile when the doctor said I was permanently blind. Marcus's voice grew harder. I heard you on the phone that first day, laughing about the blind fool and how easy I'd be to control. I watched you photograph my documents, forge my signatures, plot with your lover to steal everything I built. No, you're confused. Your condition. My condition is perfect health and 20/20th vision. Marcus turned to face the chapel. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to the real Sophia Rodriguez. Not the loving fiancée she's pretended to be, but a calculating con artist who spent the past 8 months planning to defraud and murder me. This is insane. Sophia turned to the minister, to her guests. He's had a breakdown. His blindness, the trauma. He's not thinking clearly. I'm thinking more clearly than I have in months. Marcus nodded to David, who pulled out a tablet connected to a portable projector they'd set up that morning. On the white wall, beside the altar, video began to play. Sophia and Richard in Marcus's living room, discussing the conservatorship plan. Sophia forging documents at his desk. Hotel surveillance showing her entering rooms with Richard. And, finally, the recording from the kitchen. Sophia's voice, clear and damning. Not poison. That's too obvious. But a medication error. An overdose of his blood pressure medication. He's blind and confused. These things happen. The chapel erupted. Gasps. Shouts. Movement. Richard was already on his feet, heading for the door. But 2 large men, Marcus's cousins, blocked his path. Sophia stood frozen, staring at the wall where her own voice condemned her. You recorded us? She whispered. Every moment, every conversation, every betrayal. Marcus stepped closer, and she flinched back. Did you really think I wouldn't notice? The smile when I was diagnosed? The way you isolated me from everyone who cared? The cousin you planted as my nurse? The business rival you brought into my home as my caregiver? I loved you, Sophia whispered. No, you love my money. You saw a blind man, literally and figuratively, and thought you could take everything. Marcus shook his head. But I saw you, Sophia. Really saw you. And what I saw was someone willing to commit fraud, perjury, and murder for a fortune she didn't earn. The church doors opened. 2 detectives entered, badges visible. Sophia Rodriguez. The lead detective approached the altar. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, attempted murder, and forgery. You have the right to remain silent. As they read her rights, Sophia's mask finally shattered completely. You bastard, she hissed at Marcus. You self-righteous bastard. You think you're so much better than me. I built everything I have from nothing. Marcus interrupted coldly. And I protected it from someone who wanted to steal it. That's not self-righteous. That's smart. They handcuffed her. As they let her pass Marcus, she stopped, her eyes meeting his one last time. I hope you're happy. I'm not, Marcus admitted, but I will be. Eventually. Richard was arrested next, along with the 3 doctors who'd agreed to provide false testimony. The lawyer who'd prepared the fraudulent conservatorship documents was already in custody. David had ensured that happened that morning. When the police had gone, taking Sophia and her co-conspirators with them. The chapel fell silent. Marcus stood alone at the altar, still in his wedding suit, surrounded by the ruins of what should have been the happiest day of his life. His mother approached, wrapping him in her arms. "My strong boy, you did the right thing. Then why does it hurt so much? Because you loved her. The version of her you thought was real. It's okay to grieve that, even while knowing you made the right choice." Marcus nodded, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. The performance was over. The truth was revealed. Justice was being served. So why did victory feel so much like loss? The weeks following the aborted wedding were a blur of legal proceedings, media attention, and emotional devastation. Marcus threw himself into work, spending 18-hour days at his office, anything to avoid the empty penthouse that now felt haunted by Sophia's betrayal. The evidence was overwhelming. The video recordings, the forged documents, the offshore bank accounts, the hotel surveillance footage, all of it painted a clear picture of a calculated, long-term fraud. The district attorney was thrilled. Cases this well-documented were rare. Sophia, Richard, the 3 doctors, and the lawyer all faced serious charges. The conservatorship petition was dismissed with prejudice. The prenuptial agreement Marcus had secretly filed made it clear that even if they'd married, Sophia would have had no claim to his assets. But none of it made Marcus feel better. "You need to talk to someone," David said one evening, finding Marcus alone in his office at 11 p.m. "A therapist. Someone who can help you process all this." "I'm fine," Marcus said automatically. "You're not fine. You're working yourself to death to avoid feeling anything." David sat down across from him. "Brother, what Sophia did was traumatic. You don't have to be strong all the time." Marcus's facade cracked slightly. "Every time I close my eyes, I see her smile. That first smile when the doctor said I was blind. And I wonder, was any of it real? Was there ever a moment when she actually cared about me?" "Probably not," David said honestly. "And that's on her, not you. You love someone you thought was real. There's no shame in that. I feel like an idiot." "You're not an idiot. You're human. She was a professional con artist who targeted you specifically because you were successful and, frankly, a bit lonely." David leaned forward. "But Marcus, you can't let this destroy your ability to trust anyone ever again. That would be letting her win." Marcus nodded slowly, though he wasn't sure he believed it. The media coverage was intense. Tech mogul exposes fiancé's murder plot at wedding altar. The story had everything: wealth, betrayal, dramatic reveal, justice. Marcus's company stock actually went up, investors apparently impressed by his strategic thinking and self-protection. But the public attention was exhausting. Marcus stopped going to his favorite restaurants, avoided social events, even considered selling the penthouse and moving somewhere no one knew his story. His mother visited from San Francisco, staying for 2 weeks. She cooked his favorite meals, made him go for walks along the lakefront, and told him stories about his father, who died when Marcus was young. "Your father always said that the measure of a person isn't whether they fall, but whether they get back up," she said one evening over dinner. "You fell, Marcus. She pushed you, but you got back up. You fought back. That takes strength. It doesn't feel like strength. It feels like survival. Sometimes they're the same thing." The trial date was set for 6 months out. Marcus would have to testify, relive the entire ordeal in front of cameras and a jury. His lawyers assured him it was an open and shut case, but the prospect of facing Sophia again made his stomach turn. 2 months after the wedding, David invited Marcus to dinner at his family home in Oak Park. "My sister is visiting from Boston," he said. "I think you two should meet." Marcus almost refused. He wasn't ready for socializing, wasn't ready to trust anyone new. But something in David's voice made him accept. Rachel Kim was nothing like Sophia. Where Sophia had been polished and perfectly presented, Rachel was natural and unpretentious. She wore jeans and a simple sweater, minimal makeup, and when she smiled, it reached her eyes. She ran a nonprofit in Boston that provided coding education to underprivileged youth. Over dinner, she talked passionately about her work, about the kids she'd helped, about her vision for expanding the program. "David told me what happened," she said later, when they were alone in the kitchen cleaning up. "I'm so sorry. That must have been devastating. It was, Marcus admitted, surprised by his honesty. Still is sometimes. I can't imagine. But if it helps at all, I think what you did, exposing her, protecting yourself, that took incredible courage. They talked for hours. About her work, his company, their families, their dreams. And for the first time, since removing those dark glasses at the altar, Marcus felt something shift in his chest. Not love. It was far too soon for that. But possibility. Hope. Would you like to have dinner again? He asked as the evening ended. Just the two of us. Rachel's smile was warm and genuine. I like that very much. Driving home that night, Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in months. Lightness. As if the weight pressing on his chest had lifted slightly. He wasn't healed. The betrayal still hurt. The upcoming trial still loomed. But for the first time, Marcus could see a path forward. A path that didn't include Sophia's shadow. 3 months after the wedding that never was, Marcus stood in his therapist's office, looking out over downtown Chicago. Dr. Patricia Morrison had been recommended by David, and though Marcus had been skeptical at first, the weekly sessions had become essential to his healing. How are you feeling about the trial next month? Dr. Morrison asked. Nervous, angry, ready to be done with all of it. Marcus turned from the window, but also stronger than I was. Is that strange? Not all. Trauma can destroy us, or it can show us what we're capable of surviving. You've chosen survival. Over the past months, Marcus had slowly rebuilt his life. He'd returned to focusing on his company, launching a new security software that had been in development for years. He'd reconnected with old friends he'd neglected during his relationship with Sophia. He'd even started rock climbing, finding catharsis in the physical challenge and mental focus required. And he'd been seeing Rachel. Not dating exactly. They were both careful not to label it, not to rush into anything. But they'd had dinner several times when she visited Chicago. They texted regularly. She'd even given him feedback on his company's educational outreach program. How are things with Rachel? Dr. Morrison asked, as if reading his thoughts. Good. Different. Marcus sat down. With Sophia, everything was intense from the start. Passionate, consuming. With Rachel, it's gentle, steady. We talk about real things, work challenges, family dynamics, our fears and hopes. And that scares you? Terrifies me, Marcus admitted. Because what if I'm wrong again? What if I'm seeing what I want to see instead of what's really there? That's a valid fear. But Marcus, you can't let Sophia's betrayal destroy your ability to trust your own judgment. You didn't fail with her. She deceived you. Professionally, systematically. That's different from making a poor choice. Marcus nodded, though the fear remained. The following week, Rachel came to Chicago for a long weekend. Marcus picked her up from O'Hare, and they drove to Door County for a couple of days away from the city. Walking along the beach at sunset, Rachel brought up what they'd both been avoiding. I've been offered a position here, she said quietly. Executive director of a Chicago nonprofit. It's a great opportunity. Better funding than Boston, more resources, chance to expand the program significantly. Marcus's heart jumped. That's amazing. Are you going to take it? I don't know. She stopped walking, turning to face him. Marcus, I need to know, what is this? What we doing? It was the question Marcus had been dreading and hoping for simultaneously. I care about you, he said carefully. A lot. But I'm also terrified. Sophia destroyed my ability to trust easily. And I don't want to hurt you while I'm figuring out how to put myself back together. I'm not asking for a marriage proposal, Rachel said gently. I'm asking if you see a possibility of us. Because I do. But I'm not moving to Chicago for a maybe. I need to know you're open to seeing where this goes. Marcus thought about the past months. How easy it was to talk to Rachel. How she challenged him intellectually without making him feel inferior. How her smile made him want to smile back, genuinely, for the first time in what felt like years. How different she was from Sophia in every way that mattered. I see a possibility, he said finally. More than a possibility. I see someone I want to know better, spend more time with, build something real with. But Rachel, I need it to be slow. I need to rebuild my ability to trust. Slow works for me. She took his hand. I watched my best friend rush into a relationship after a bad breakup. It imploded spectacularly. I don't want that for us. Us, Marcus repeated, testing the word. It felt good. Scary but good. They spent the weekend talking about everything. Their pasts, their baggage, their hopes for the future. Rachel told him about her own failed engagement 3 years ago, how her ex had cheated with a mutual friend. Marcus shared more details about Sophia's betrayal than he'd told anyone except David and his therapist. "I'm not her," Rachel said on their last night, sitting on the hotel balcony overlooking the lake. "I can't promise I'll never hurt you. We're human. We hurt each other sometimes. But I can promise I'll be honest. Always. Even when it's hard. That's all I need," Marcus said. And meant it. When he dropped Rachel at the airport Sunday evening, she kissed him goodbye. Their first kiss, gentle and full of promise. "I'm taking the job," she whispered against his lips. "And we'll figure out the rest as we go." Driving home, Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope for the future. Not the naive hope of his early days with Sophia, but a more mature, grounded hope built on honesty and realistic expectations. The trial was coming. He'd have to face Sophia again, relive the betrayal publicly. But for the first time, Marcus felt ready. Because he wasn't just surviving anymore. He was beginning to live again. The Cook County courthouse was packed. Media trucks lined the street. Reporters jostled for position, and curious onlookers filled every available seat in the courtroom. The case had captured public attention. Wealthy tech mogul versus his murderous ex-fiancée. Marcus sat at the prosecutor's table, his lawyers on either side, David behind him for moral support. Across the aisle, Sophia sat with her defense team, wearing a conservative navy suit and minimal makeup, clearly attempting to look sympathetic. When their eyes met for the first time in 4 months, Marcus felt nothing. No anger, no hurt, no lingering affection. Just a distant curiosity about who this stranger really was beneath all the lies. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The prosecution's case was methodical and devastating. They presented the video evidence first. The jury watched, rapt, as Sophia discussed medication overdoses, forged documents, and plotted to steal Marcus's assets. Several jurors' expressions hardened as they heard her laugh about the blind fool she was manipulating. The hotel surveillance footage showed Sophia entering Richard Blake's room 17 times over 4 months. Security timestamps proved these visits occurred while she was supposedly at business meetings or visiting family. Lies Marcus had believed completely. The financial evidence revealed the offshore account in the Cayman Islands, already containing $50,000 of Sophia's own money, apparently her investment in the scheme. Forensic accountants outlined the plan to transfer Marcus's liquid assets totaling over $80 million, then systematically liquidate his property and company shares. Carmen Vasquez, Sophia's cousin who'd worked as the nurse, testified for the prosecution in exchange for a reduced sentence. She described how Sophia had recruited her, promising $500,000 once the plan succeeded. Carmen detailed conversations where Sophia discussed the timeline for Marcus's accident. The 3 doctors who'd agreed to provide false testimony at the conservatorship hearing had also taken plea deals. One by one, they testified about how Sophia had paid them between $10,000 and $25,000 each to testify that Marcus was mentally incompetent due to his blindness. Dr. Martinez, Marcus's actual neurologist, testified about the morning Marcus's vision returned and his unusual request to keep it secret. "In 30 years of practice, I'd never had a patient make such a request," Dr. Martinez said. But something in Mr. Chen's tone suggested he was in danger. "I agreed to give him 48 hours. Then came Marcus's testimony. He spent 2 full days on the stand, walking the jury through the relationship's timeline. Meeting Sophia at the tech conference. The whirlwind romance. The proposal. The accident. Describe the moment you first suspected your fiancée wasn't who you thought she was," the prosecutor asked. Marcus took a breath. "The doctor told me I was permanently blind. I saw Sophia smile. Not a comforting smile, not a brave smile. A smile of satisfaction, of triumph. In that moment, I knew something was very wrong." He described the performance of blindness. Watching Sophia photograph his documents, listening to her plot with Richard, hearing them discuss his murder in his own home. "Why didn't you go to the police immediately?" the prosecutor asked. Because I needed proof. I needed to know how deep the conspiracy went, who else was involved. If I confronted her that first day, she would have denied everything, and I'd never know the truth. Marcus looked directly at the jury. I needed to protect not just my assets, but my life. Sophia's defense attorney tried to paint Marcus as paranoid, vindictive, even suggesting he'd fabricated the recordings. But the prosecution's expert witnesses confirmed the audio and video evidence was authentic and unaltered. The defense called character witnesses who testified that Sophia had always seemed kind and caring. Her mother sobbed on the stand, insisting her daughter was incapable of such calculated cruelty. But when Sophia herself testified, her story fell apart under cross-examination. Ms. Rodriguez, you testified that you genuinely loved Mr. Chun. Yet we have recordings of you laughing about the blind fool you were manipulating. Can you explain that? I was upset, stressed. I said things I didn't mean. You said them multiple times over several months. You discussed specific plans to murder Mr. Chun. Were all of those statements just stress? Sophia's composure cracked. He trapped me. He pretended to be blind to humiliate me. He pretended to be blind to expose your plan to defraud and murder him. The prosecutor corrected. A plan you'd been executing for 8 months before his accident even occurred. The defense tried to recover, but the damage was done. Sophia's mask had slipped, and the jury had seen the truth. Richard Blake's trial was separate, but his testimony was read into the record. He'd taken a plea deal and confirmed every detail of the conspiracy, including his sexual relationship with Sophia throughout her engagement to Marcus. Closing arguments lasted a full day. The prosecution methodically reviewed the evidence, hundreds of hours of recordings, dozens of forged documents, testimony from multiple co-conspirators. The defense argued that Sophia had been manipulated by Richard, that she'd gotten in over her head, that she deserved mercy. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, the forewoman stood. In the case of the people versus Sophia Rodriguez, on the charge of conspiracy to commit fraud, we find the defendant guilty. On the charge of forgery, guilty. On the charge of conspiracy to commit murder, guilty. Sophia's sob echoed through the courtroom. Her mother wailed. Her defense attorneys slumped in their seats. Marcus felt David's hand on his shoulder. His mother, sitting behind him, squeezed his hand. Justice. Finally, undeniably justice. 6 months after the verdict, Marcus stood in his new office. Not the one at his tech company headquarters, but a smaller space in a renovated building in Wicker Park. This was the headquarters of the Marcus Chun Foundation, a nonprofit he'd started to help other victims of fraud and financial abuse. Sophia had been sentenced to 12 years in prison. Richard Blake got 10. The doctors and lawyers received lesser sentences, but lost their professional licenses. Carmen Vasquez, who'd cooperated fully, received probation and community service. Marcus had testified at Sophia's sentencing, giving a victim impact statement that had brought tears to even the judge's eyes. But he hadn't asked for the maximum penalty. Instead, he'd said, I hope prison gives Sophia time to become the person she pretended to be. The person who cared about others, who wanted to help, who had empathy. That person doesn't exist yet, but maybe she could. The media had called him gracious. His therapist called it healthy closure. Marcus called it moving forward. His foundation had already helped 37 victims of financial fraud navigate the legal system, recover assets, and rebuild their lives. The work was fulfilling in ways his tech company never had been. Creating software was intellectually satisfying, but helping people recover from betrayal felt personal, meaningful. You ready? Rachel appeared in his office doorway, stunning in a simple blue dress. Today was the Foundation's first major fundraiser, a gala at the Four Seasons. Almost. Marcus straightened his tie, then turned to face her. Have I told you today how grateful I am that you took that Chicago job? Only 3 times. Rachel smiled, crossing the room to adjust his collar. But I'll never get tired of hearing it. They've been officially together for 8 months now. Slow, steady, building a foundation of trust and honesty. Rachel had her own apartment, her own life, her own career. They spent 3 or 4 nights a week together, talked daily, and supported each other's work. It was nothing like his relationship with Sophia had been. There was no intensity, no drama, no grand gestures. Instead, there was comfort, laughter, mutual respect, and a growing certainty that this was what real love looked like. "My parents want to meet you," Rachel said, still fussing with his collar, though it was perfectly straight. "They're coming for Thanksgiving. Are you ready for that?" Marcus considered. Meeting parents felt significant, like a statement about the future. A year ago, the thought would have terrified him. "Now, I'm ready," he said. "I like to meet them." Rachel's smile was radiant. "Good, because my mom's already planning the menu, and my dad's been practicing questions that aren't too intrusive." At the gala that evening, Marcus mingled with donors, gave a speech about the foundation's mission, and watched Rachel work the room with natural grace. She was better at this than he was, more comfortable with small talk, more skilled at making people feel valued. David found him during dinner. "Brother, I have news. Sophia's filed for appeal." Marcus's stomach tightened, but not as much as he'd expected. "What are her grounds?" "Insufficient evidence, improper jury instructions, ineffective counsel." The usual. Her new lawyer says the recordings were obtained illegally. They weren't. "The house was mine, the security system was mine. It's all legal." "I know. The appeal won't go anywhere. But I wanted you to hear it from me first." Marcus nodded, taking a sip of wine. "Thanks for the heads up. But David, I'm not going to let her disrupt my life anymore. She's in prison. I'm here. That's enough." Later, on the rooftop terrace, Rachel found him looking out over the city lights. "David told me about the appeal," she said quietly, sliding her arm through his. "Are you okay?" "I am, actually." Marcus turned to face her. "A year ago, news like that would have sent me spiraling. But now, she's just noise in the background of a life I'm building. A good life." "It is a good life," Rachel agreed. "And it's only getting better." Marcus thought about everything that had brought him to this moment. The accident that had revealed the truth. The betrayal that had broken him. The choice to fight back rather than surrender. The slow, painful process of healing. The risk of loving again. "I was blind," he said softly. "Not just literally for those 3 days, but emotionally too. I couldn't see who Sophia really was because I was so desperate to believe in the fantasy." "And now?" Rachel asked. "Now I see clearly." Marcus smiled, pulling her close. "Really, truly clearly. Not just with my eyes, but with my heart. And what I see is you. Real, honest, genuine you." "Good," Rachel whispered, kissing him softly. "Because what I see is you too. The real Marcus. The one who's strong enough to be vulnerable, brave enough to trust again, and wise enough to know the difference between a lie and the truth." Inside the ballroom, the gala continued. The foundation was raising money, helping victims, making a difference. Marcus's company continued to thrive. His family was proud. His friends were supportive. But here, on this rooftop with Rachel, Marcus felt something he'd never truly felt with Sophia. Peace. He'd been tested by fire and emerged stronger. He'd been betrayed and learned to trust again. He'd been broken and rebuilt himself into someone better. The man in the dark glasses, pretending to be blind, had seen the truth about his fiancée. But in the process, he'd seen something even more important. The truth about himself. He was resilient. He was worthy. He was loved, not for his wealth or his status, but for who he actually was. Marcus Chun had spent 3 days literally blind and 8 months figuratively blind. But now, standing in a Chicago night with a woman who saw him truly, he could finally see the life he was meant to live. And it was beautiful. The end. Blue Heart, wow. What a journey. If this story moved you, smash that like button and subscribe for more incredible tales of justice, betrayal, and redemption. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Comment below. What was your favorite moment? Team Marcus all the way? Let's celebrate his victory together. Thank you for being part of this incredible story. Until next time, keep your eyes open and your heart wise. Blue Heart.